Hello, I'm going to share with you layout number 6 that I've created using the Hello Lovely range. I'm also going to be using my Cricut Explore Air as part of this project because I'm fitting it together with a challenge on a consultant's Cricut site for Australia and New Zealand consultants, as well as I'm going to share it on our team page where we've been asked to share some ideas for starting the year or back to school type photography or page ideas. And so this one, I got a series of questions that I asked my 3 children. Simple things like how old are you, your favourite animal, favourite colour, what do you want to be when you grow up, and what's something you hope to achieve this year. So there's quite a few questions on there, and I just got them each to answer it in their own writing, just as a snapshot in time, a way of capturing what's going on. So this layout, this challenge on the Cricut site was from one of the page maps or the recipes in one of the close to my heart scrapbooks, and scrapbook imagine idea type books that we sell that you can find online and in our catalogues. So I am using 3 strips, and because my page is 12 by 12 inches, I've cut each of these 3 strips from the Hello Lovely paper down to 4 inches wide. 3 lots of 4 should fit into the 12, so that's my maths, and I'm just trimming off 1.5 inches off the bottom of these because I decided that it looked a bit funny going over the full page. This isn't an exact representation or copy from the recipe in the book. I'm not very good at doing what I'm told, I guess, or following direct instructions. I like to change things up or make it more my own, and that's okay. If you're someone who likes to follow things exactly and do exact measurements, that's okay too. It's all about your own style and the way that you work best and how you like to capture and record your family memories. So I also cut 1-inch strips from the floral paper in this range, and to start with I just laid these across the bottom of both sheets. I wanted to keep the papers that I used on both sides the same as a way of connecting them across because the layout is going to look different on both pages. So from my Cricut I am going to cut out the word life as the title of my page, and I'm cutting this out from the sea glass patterned from the sea glass cardstock, which fits beautifully with this range. And so I'm cutting out the word life. I'm also going to cut out some of the floral, or not the floral, the leaf type patterns on this page as well, because that's part of the challenge that we were set on this Cricut site, was to use this particular key, and it's got a picture of an umbrella. It has some gumboots and it has some flowers as well as these leaves, beautiful, and life and the letter Y, but I'm just using the word life and the leaf type patterns. And I'm going to use one bigger lot of leaves with a double overlay type thing on the left page, and on the right I'm going to do a smaller one just under 4 inches long each for each of my children's photos. And that's another connecting point that I'm creating between the 2 pages. Even though they're different size, it's the same pattern, and I've used the same sage coloured, the greeny coloured cardstock on both sides. Okay, so I decided to use some of the leftover offcuts from the patterned papers in the Hello Lovely range to map my photos, and I'm playing with the green, and I used the opposite side of the grey. One of the papers sort of got a grey pattern with a grey paper with white lines on it, and on the other side it's sort of more rough, almost like a white hessian or calico or something pattern on behind there. So I'm using that calico side rather than the side I've used behind the photo of my daughter Katya. So I cut the life quite big. I made it go, I think it was set to 10 inches in width, and I adjusted the cut as well on my Cricut to make it longer rather than higher. So I clicked on the wee padlock, and that changed meant I could change it without changing both dimensions. And so just using the adhesive roller to stick the matted photo onto this page, make myself a bit more room. and using the mat to guide. So I was able to measure them from 9 on both sides and just get a visual that that was even by having the Whisper or the White Daisy cardstock laid directly on my close to my heart mat. Okay, so the leaf pattern comes in 2 pieces, and for this side I kept the 2 pieces and I cut one from the greeny patterned paper. That's the full blank one that you can see just on the middle of my cutting mat there. The one I'm putting glue on at the moment is from the green cardstock, and I'm just sticking them together. So what happens is in the leaf parts where it's been cut out, you just get a hint of the patterned paper from underneath, which looks quite lovely. I have seen people use different coloured pattern papers under each. That would take a little bit of independent cutting rather than direct cut from the Cricut. But with the using the Cricut, I ungrouped these sets of leaves to do just the underneath layer of the leaves for the other side of the page, and I was able to just make that change to it. I decided not to keep the floral strip on the bottom that's on the right hand side page. I lifted it up a little bit so it was closer to the photo. I just sort of wanted that clustered effect across it, but also still having that continuity so that that patterned paper can be found on both pages. Looking good, getting that glued down. Choosing whether to put the leaves sort of facing up or facing down. I wanted it sort of to wrap around or frame the photo of my children. So pressing that down so that it can adhere nicely, and then getting the life ready to stick down again. I'm using the broad tip glue pen here, just in the biggest bits, and then I'm going to use the finer tip pen just to get some of the pieces that I know weren't quite stuck down properly. This glue is quite forgiving in the sense that you've got a little bit of time to position it. It's not like a tape runner where it stuck down, and by peeling it off you often rip up pieces of the underneath. So it's quite nice when you're not 100% certain, or you know that you want to position it very carefully. There was a little bit of a bump there. We've got 2 kittens who are about 3 months old, and they do like to grab at the cords and things that are hanging down from the camera. Okay, so working on this right hand page, I need to get that all glued down. I'm quite happy with the layout of that in general, and I decided instead of having the writing centered on the piece of patterned paper, I actually dropped it down so it was overhanging the strip of the floral paper down the bottom, leaving a little bit of the gap at the top, and I'm going to put a zip strip up there later from the Pocket Pages pattern paper sheet. And the third strip down the very edge. I had a bit of decisions to make. I knew that I wanted the paler colour in the middle, but it's whether I used the more olivey colour on the left hand side here and the more minty colour on the right, and that's what I ended up doing. To start with, I had it the other way because one of my oldest daughter's favourite colours is the minty green, but I wanted their photos in age order, and I felt that having that more olivey green closer to the left hand page added a connection with the leaves, the floral leaves, and you might see that later on when you see both of the sides together. It just seemed to have a better flow or better continuity across. So the questions I typed up and I just popped them on to put 3 columns on a Word document and printed them side by side, so I was able to cut them as a strip. I was able to cut them into strips, which meant that I knew that that would fit onto the 12-inch page. Okay, so I decided with these leaves to do them facing down and then facing up and then facing down, so it sort of goes through in a curvy pattern across the page. And so the one on the left curves up, then the one, it's almost like it carries on and it flows across the 2 pages. and getting the final one stuck down. The fine tip glue is brilliant for sticking down little things like this. Okay, so I've got both pages there, and I could stop here, but I felt that there was a bit of a gap on the top of the right hand page, and it felt like it just needed some more finishing touches, some finer details. I wondered about cutting using the thin cuts for a name label for each of the kids, but it just felt that little bit too wide when I tried that idea out. And I decided that Life Together would make quite a cool title when I'm actually exploring all three of these kids who are all off to high school today. It's my youngest son's first day at high school, and the first day that all three of them will be back at the same school, which was the case 4 years ago. They were all at the same school in my daughter's final year at our full primary. So I'm using the sea glass ink to stamp together, and I grabbed my Close to My Heart backing paper because I just wanted to do a practice run to make sure my stamping technique was up to scratch. So I've turned over the cutting mat and I've got the nice foamy side, and the stamp looked great. So I'm going to now put that directly onto the layout. It's always a bit scary doing these things last. Sometimes it would be wise, if I knew that that's what I was going to do that first. That way if I made a mistake, there might be more opportunities to cover it up or fix it up. But thankfully it worked out perfectly. Cleaning, using the spray to spray my stamp and then scrub it down so it's ready for use another time. And I'm going to use a date stamp which isn't in our current catalogues, but I like to date some of the stuff, especially when it's a record in time like this with these questions. So I was able to set that to the 30th of January 2017. Alright, so it's good to put them together and just sort of have a look and check to make sure that you've got what you want on them. Here I am just trying out the size of those thin cuts to see if they work, and I decided that they didn't. And playing with zip strip idea, and I quite like the zip strip concept, but I don't think that's the right one. So I had a look at some of the other sheets and found that the pocket pages had a darker green one which fitted with the colour of the leaves that I've cut from the Cricut, or cut with the Cricut. Okay, so stuck that down, and then having a look from the compliments packet what could work to add to the page, and I ended up just using a couple of strips from it and cutting these in half, but like I'm playing with this one of Ethan there, had to make some choices about where to put that. So there was a blue and a pink. There weren't three, so I cut the two pink ones in half for the two girls and cut the blue one in half and just used half of it for my son. And I decided to put those wee sort of tabs alongside to the left of their pictures with their names on them. And I used some of the glitter gems from the compliments, from the actual separate pack. You can buy these separately, they are part of the kit, or they can be purchased separately as well. So to use one of the larger dots on top of the I in Life. It's quite good to often look for words and titles and things that you can just sort of add. That J's sometimes have them as well, which is quite nice to put them on. And I put a smaller dot in the centre of each of the leaves near the photos of the three youth. Still not sure if it needed something more or not, and decided it was time just to write the kids' names on those little strips that I cut from the compliment sticker sheet, and sticking it down. With these photos, I had to make my kids, I asked them very nicely to head outside so we can go and take them. So they're fresh photos on a fresh layout, a snapshot in time. Thanks for watching.